What's a secret from your field of work the general public probably doesn't know? I had a friend who stacked up thousands of dollars every semester because she'd apply for all these small cash reward scholarships that basically no one would apply for. Everyone went after the scholarships that were big enough to cover all or most of your tuition, while she was covering her tuition a few $100s at a time. There are a lot of local businesses that have little $500 scholarships to basically get a photo op with a local university student to show they're helping the community. These scholarships were much easier to collect. Most didn't go through the school. They'd just hand her a check that she could cash and use for whatever. Other scholarships would take time for the financial aid office to process in the first place. Then you'd have to wait for them to take out the money for your classes, book vouchers, dorm, etc. before they refunded you what was left. I bet she must be the only college student in history whose biggest problem with her financial aid was running out of space to endorse checks. Good for her. Story 2. I used to work at an airline ticketing desk. If you are late for your flight or try to check in 10 minutes before departure, no crying or complaining can make the flight stay open just for you. Clearing the security lines alone can take 15 minutes, and walking to the boarding area is at least 10 more minutes. If you are nice and apologetic about it, we have the authority to waive the rebooking fee. So the only thing you gotta do is just wait a few more hours or an extra day for the next available flight to that destination. However, if you try to complain and whine about being late and not allowed to check in because you absolutely have to attend the wedding, funeral today, etc., or the traffic jam was just so bad, well, how come every other passenger is able to board the flight like normally? You're the only one who's running late here. So the rebooking fee is at least $70, sir. Sorry, there's nothing we can do about that fee. You have to pay up. Treat customer service agents nicely and it will work wonders. LOL. Story 3. There are 3 types of PhD students I've met: genuinely brilliant people who are genuinely intelligent, emergent thinkers, who will change their field and also knew a bit about, well, everything. Average students who work hard, understand their research area well, but are as dumb as anyone else about any other given thing. Foreign student nepo babies getting a free ride from their government because their parents are influential back home. All can be lovely people, and I don't mean to imply any of them don't deserve it, but only a small fraction fit the genuinely brilliant stereotype. Story 4. Your hairstylist probably doesn't remember the names of your pets or kids or spouse or where you work or where you went for vacation. When you tell us, we put into your client file, and before you come in for your next appointment, we review the file to refresh our memories. Think about it. Most of us do about 5 to 10 clients a day or 25 to 50 clients a week. So if it's been 8 weeks since your last appointment, we've probably seen about 200 to 400 other clients in the meantime. To be honest, if not for your client file, we might not even remember you at all. Story 5. When we are working on a movie or a TV show that is bad, we know it. You always know when you're shooting something bad. It's hard to tell when something will be good or even great, but when it's bad, it's as obvious as you think it would be, which means there's a little bit of sympathy for all of you that will have to pay to watch it later because we at least got paid while having to suffer through making it. You have to pay to watch it. Apologies in advance and afterward. It's not like we can stand up and tell the director and or producer to stop and spend this money on something better. Story 6. Elder care. There's no magical safety net that's there to take care of you. From insurance's perspective, you have your whole life to plan this out. It's not up to them to save you. Either you have the money to find help or facility placement, or you don't. If you don't, kiss the inheritance money to your kids goodbye, because you'll need to spend down to qualify for Medicaid. If you don't want to do that, then you better have some family or friends willing to take over care at home. Many facilities will run a financial background check on you before they accept you for admission. If you don't have enough money to last through the end of your life, many facilities will tell you aren't a good fit. You get what you pay for with facilities, and Medicaid accepting ones can be rough. Anticipate sharing a room with someone else. Even if you do have money, nursing homes are falling apart these days, and I'd still expect a subpar experience. Elder care really needs to be a bigger issue in this country because it sucks right now. Story 7. Doctors are humans too. We make mistakes. We don't know everything, but we still probably know a lot. We can be lazy sometimes. We want to go home and see our families or just relax. We are not on 24/7. Just because we are on call doesn't mean we are just sitting around waiting for your question. We have no control over what your insurance will cover. A lot of times we have no control over our schedules. We don't like running behind in a clinic or making you wait. It's not because we are just shooting the crap. We were probably dealing with a serious situation, or a PT showed up late and we are required to still see them. Story 8. Your health insurance that says you get 30, 40, or 60 visits or whatever for physical therapy covered per year doesn't actually mean you will get 30, 40, 60 visits or whatever for physical therapy covered. Even if the doctor treating you thinks you need a certain amount of visits, it's usually going to be reviewed by a board of doctors that work for the insurance company who have never met you, who will review your doctor's request for you to get X number of visits for physical therapy. They'll read the file and notes from your doctor about why they think you need it, and the insurance board of doctors will decide if your doctor is right or not. For example, your doctor feels that you need to have 24 visits of physical therapy. Your visit limit for physical therapy is 30 visits covered per calendar year. So, no problem, right? Your doctor will have files, forms, and documents explaining why you need these 24 visits. The insurance board of doctors reviews these forms and decides, nah, he definitely only needs 12 visits. 12 visits approved, 12 visits denied, bye. So you only get 12 visits covered, despite the fact that the doctor actually treating you thinks you need more than that, despite the fact that you don't feel better or stronger after 12 visits. Appeals are possible, but they're a pain in the butt and take forever to go through. I don't work in appeals, so I can't even say how successful they really are, but I know they're a huge, annoying process. Story 9. For the most part, crew working conditions in the maritime industry are very poor. Seafarers' work hail from many developing countries, particularly the Philippines or India, which is leveraged to underpay and overwork them. Their working hours are way too long, their salary is far too low, particularly having been exploited by recruitment agencies who charge them fees to be hired. A curious example is also crew abandonment, where a ship owner finds that it costs them less money, for whatever the underlying reason is, to just walk away from a vessel with its crew effectively stranded for months, if not years. They're unpaid and unable to disembark. I know of one instance where the crew is stuck on board the ship, which is under arrest in West Africa, going on for 2 years now. Thieves come on board, beating the crew up and stealing equipment. Of course, the local authorities don't do anything because they're in on it. Story 10. Phosphate mines will be empty around the year 2100 at a constant rate of extraction. Our present industrial agriculture beyond petroleum is using phosphate to fertilize the fields. It will be absolutely impossible to keep doing this if there is no more phosphate to be used, and phosphate isn't something you can synthesize, let alone create ex nihilo. To put it another way, industrial agriculture based on inputs will be completely impossible and will disappear. Mycorrhizal fungi are the organisms capable of accessing soil phosphate when it's in a form that plants cannot assimilate. This always happens at one point or another. They provide phosphate and other nutrients to the plants in exchange for sugar, as they are unable to do photosynthesis themselves. Agriculture with soils rich in mycorrhizal fungi will be our only option by 2100. This supposes an undisturbed or very seldomly disturbed soil, meaning no-till farming, agroforestry, syntropic agroforestry, and so on. The implementation of practices such as regenerative hydrology and agroforestry, including syntropic, is capable of revitalizing any ecosystem on the planet provided that a plant can grow there. The future will be based on truly renewable resources such as plants and biomass, photosynthesis, solar thermal energy, deep geothermal energy, etc., or there will be no future. Story 11. Not all medical facilities take HIPAA as seriously as they're supposed to. Be cautious about what you say. I've heard one specific hospital in my city violate it so much. Also, in mental health programs, it will occur occasionally where people who need a higher level of care are accepted anyway because they need to fill rooms for billing. A clinician in my building condescended to me for 10 minutes a few weeks ago because my colleagues refused a referral from her floor. We have 2 floors with 2 different programs. Because he was not appropriate for our floor and needed a lot more help than we could give him. Plus, they tried to send him super last minute, same day at 3 p.m. and gave us 0 information on his effect until we did some digging, basically try to pull a fast one. I was angry, and I think my other colleague could tell. She asked if I was okay as soon as we were out of earshot of the clinician. Story 12. Veterinary related. Getting an opinion from a specialist is probably the best use of your money. Sure, it is expensive up front, but it has the most value. It might be the worst day of your life that your pet is being euthanized. We're sad too, but we're also happy to relieve their suffering. If you're very nice to the staff, some techs will throw in a free nail trim. If you're mean to the staff, word gets around. Many people work at several places, and the veterinary community is very small. Choosing DNR from your pet doesn't mean we do nothing and watch them pass away. We keep them as comfortable as we can until they pass. Choosing CPR for a 20-year-old dog with heart disease and kidney disease and a million other problems is probably causing more harm than good. You can always switch codes too. Not a secret, but buy good pet insurance or have money set aside. Costs are rising due to greedy corporations taking over like Mars. The whole field is kind of in a messed up situation. I promise it's not because individual vets are greedy. Also, not a secret, vets don't get kickbacks from recommending you prescription foods. Story 13. You know that pack of chicken you ditched on the shampoo shelf or the ice cream you left melting behind the pillows? Yeah, we can't put that back. It's done, gone, straight to the trash. But the company can afford it, you say. Sure, and they do by raising prices and cutting hours, so technically you pay for it. We all do. Every brisket abandoned at checkout and every yogurt left to go away in aisle H23 ends up on your next receipt. It's wild how people think corporations can eat the loss when in reality, it's your grocery bill getting the stomachache. So next time you change your mind, please just freaking hand it to an employee. Don't tuck it behind the cereal like it's going into hiding. We'll put it back before it spoils, save the planet, save our wallet, save us from finding raw meat and home goods. Story 14. Most commercial antivirus boils down to, do I know this particular file is malicious? In most cases, this is fine, but it's stupid easy to bypass this by making a non-functional change to the malicious file, which the antivirus is unable to recognize as the same malware as before. It's not until you get to the enterprise-level antivirus that you start to see behavior-based detection, but even then, it's only basic behavior patterns that they can detect. Malware detection relies heavily on the fact that attackers are lazy too. They probably won't spend a lot of time modifying the malware. If you're looking for an antivirus for your personal computer, you can usually stick with what's installed by default, i.e. Windows Security or Mac's Xprotect. Just be sure to run a full scan from time to time. Story 15. If you have a business that relies on mailing via USPS and you move to different USPS locations, expect to have couriers who outright steal your packages and cause you to issue refunds a lot. Pay attention to that and hold that person accountable, as I did, because if your mail is quote-unquote lost, it's 99% of the time stolen by a courier on the truck, not the people in the office, in my experience. I've only had couriers give me issues. Once I figured this out, I held the person accountable. Plus, I skipped the courier step altogether and went directly to the post office. I still do, and I moved multiple states away last year. This week, I had a new courier decide to lie that I was not home and that I had left a note to leave my package at the post office. In reality, he's a very overweight, lazy guy who couldn't be bothered to walk 30 seconds up my driveway and knock on the door to drop it off. Better than stealing like in the past, I guess. I've run my business from probably 10 different post offices in New Jersey and Tennessee now, and New Jersey is where I'm from. But it also varies, especially the richer areas I've lived compared to the more poverty-stricken areas. Overall, skip using the courier truck if you mail things and just go straight to the post office, and wait in line if you want something scanned in instantly. If it's scanned in later at a random time, it's because it was left on the desk and anything can happen to it at that point. Story 16. Good CPS workers hate CPS way more than you do. It's an incredibly broken system, and we are desperate for a greater emphasis on children's rights so we can remove children who need it. We've all been forced to leave a child in a dangerous situation after the child has disclosed mistreatment. We know that a child's life is about to get so much worse. I sobbed until 3 a.m. after my last failed removal. That child is still being mistreated, but the courts will not allow us to intervene without more evidence than that child's disclosures. We're also major advocates for better social safety nets. I wish we could social safety net me out of a job. That's my dream, but capitalism and child tormentors are evil, abundant, and constant. Story 17. If you work for a big company, it gets sued and investigated a lot. Doesn't matter which one, it just does. During discovery, they receive subpoenas requesting documents. Email, chat, shared drives, cloud drives are all collected on the back end, and you would have no idea. If you have any decision-making power or are at all involved in groups that do, someone has read your work emails and chats. This includes things as small as coming up with prices or making small engineering decisions. Your email and chats are probably sitting on at least 6 different servers at various e-discovery vendors, law firms, and government agencies. Story 18. Hot take from a conservationist doing specialized fuel reductions in forests on federal land. Sometimes logging is good for the forest, not ancient old growth, obviously. And Smokey Bear is a schmuck for leading to wildland firefighters stopping natural lightning-caused forest fires for the last 60-plus years. Obviously, not the ones that threaten homes. Forests have a natural fire return interval that needs to be met to maintain stasis. Sometimes it's 9 years, sometimes, like Hawaii, it's 1,500 years. Without prescribed burns and managed wildfires where we let it burn but don't let it get crazy, we are damaging the forest more than a small commercialized logging operation would. Story 19. Prior work, I wasn't a data broker or anything like that, but give me about an hour and $10 and I could find out phone numbers for a person, their next of kin, their numbers, prior and current employment, sometimes family history, owned property, sometimes blueprints of said property, if they owned any businesses, current status of those businesses like unpaid taxes, etc., voting information and addresses associated with them, sometimes vehicle information and such, all perfectly legal, all very surface level, but one just has to know where to go and the order to do things. I worked for a commercial real estate company. Current work, if craftspeople that make everything themselves, not even one that designs things and has them manufactured overseas and is quote-unquote finished here at a mid-sized level operation, really pay themselves even remotely fairly, no one would buy anything. Every single artist you see is severely underpricing their work, and while it is likely 300% better than anything you could get otherwise, they're probably getting pennies, and if they point it out, they get dogpiled on. Story 20. I'm a 911 dispatcher, just speaking for my area, southeastern VA, but I think it would shock people to see how understaffed and how far behind technology we are. Your Uber driver has more precise location data than what we are able to get, and if we have to ping your phone, it's nothing like the TV shows or movies. It can sometimes take longer than 15 minutes just to give the cell carrier all the necessary forms, and then the triangulation is usually given with an absurd radius. Just to add, we are trying to keep up with technology and we are getting better, but it's not nearly enough. Story 21. People are hungry on days other than Thanksgiving. If it's about doing good when you are off from work, there are other federal holidays throughout the year when people are hungry and soup kitchens are open. Companies and organizations. As a black person, thank you for honoring Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King with the day of service. I didn't know the man, but I think he'd be fine if he had days of service and not just on his birthday. Also, an emergency contact should have a name as well as a phone number and be someone other than yourself. Signed, a volunteer coordinator about tenter busy season, even though staff could use help before and after Thanksgiving. Story 22. People know that we are short of nurses and the NHS is under strain, etc. But do they fully appreciate how short a hospital can actually be of nursing staff? I've worked countless shifts at less than half the template we should have for nurses. Should be 5. You're joking. Running on 3 nurses for a 12-hour shift to 30 patients is not unusual. Even 2 nurses to 30 patients. Sometimes we even get an extra patient just squished into our day room when every bed counts. The levels of stress that we run on is mad. When I say patients, these are actually ill patients, leaving us to go to ITU unwell or stepping down to us from ITU levels of dependency. Story 23. When I ask what medications a patient takes over my too many decades of doctoring, almost every single person replies with an odd combo of righteousness and pride. Oh, I usually hardly ever take any meds. I often won't even take Panadol for a headache. Every doctor hears this innumerable times a week, and we all want you to stop saying it and just answer our actual questions. Patients say it as a 1, nobody has ever stated that to me before, and they are special for taking the stance. And 2, I will be impressed they apparently routinely unnecessarily suffer with pain symptoms rather than take a safe, available, cheap remedy. You do not impress me as a person of higher ideals or value or moral integrity because you don't take an over-the-counter tablet when it's indicated. I usually think it's foolish to needlessly suffer, not admirable. I can't tell you how long for a patient who would reply, oh, I take all the medicines. Story 24. Apply for all the scholarships. I had a friend who finished college nearly debt-free because he applied for scholarships every weekend while at his receptionist work-study job. He wasn't going for all the expenses paid type scholarships. He focused on $500 to $5,000. Way less applications improved his chances, but 10 small scholarships a year really add up. Also had a coworker who never applied for a single scholarship and was always complaining about her student loans. She was the first person in her family to go to college. Very good student. She was adopted, Italian-American immigrant parents. Birth mother gave her up because she was suffering from a rare genetic disorder. She studied education, so many opportunities, but she never bothered because her dad told her white people don't get scholarships, that they're all used for affirmative action type people, although I'm sure you can guess what types of words he actually used. And if you're enjoying the video, learning a thing or two, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos just like this. Story 25. Those secure systems, they are built on insecure systems, built on insecure code, patched from even more insecure code all the way into the first computer programs. And the only reason they are secure is attackers don't know what scrappy code it's built on. It's almost all security through obscurity. It's like having a massive bank vault for a front door, but the walls of your house are paper mache made to look like concrete. The only reason you aren't broken into is nobody knows your walls are fake. Open source, generally accepted because it has no obscurity and has to actually rely on security. Hell, I've seen authentication APIs that if you just set one variable in the auth to admin, it doesn't bother questioning you. But you have to know the variable and how the variable is used to know that. Security is all theater. Story 26. Most rules in higher ed can be bent or broken if you have a good reason. Mileage may differ depending on the institution. Can't pay for your classes because your spouse passed away? We'll figure something out. You got diagnosed with cancer and have 2 years to live but only halfway through your degree? We'll just give you the degree and call it good. Getting married but 1 credit shy of graduation requirements for our institution? We'll waive it as a wedding gift. Are you rocking the boat and threatening to go full scorched earth against an institution that doesn't care? They'll walk you out the door and hand you a degree because they don't care. Yes, these are real situations that I've seen. Story 27. When a company says it undergoes regular penetration tests as part of its security program, 4 times out of 5 it's not an actual pen test, it's a compliance audit that almost never puts eyes on any part of their network infrastructure. An actual pen test is when you hire consultants to actually try to crack into your infrastructure. Ethical hackers for hire, to put it another way, but compliance audits are basically when they bring in consultants who are conversant in the security standards a company is required to operate under. NIST, CSF, Common Criteria, FIPS 140X, PCI DSS, to name a few, who then ask questions for each security control in the standard, write down the answers, and then later on generate a report that the customer probably never looks at. Most of the questions, do you require login credentials to access everything? And we don't do that, it's on our roadmap, is both a valid and common answer. Spoiler alert, when a customer actually has implemented something they said is on their roadmap, it's cause for celebration because that's not a common outcome at all. Security controls almost never ask questions which are operational in nature. For example, do you have a team that regularly looks over system logs for anomalies? Do you have a team that investigates those anomalies? Because if they did, a lot of these years-long compromises would have been caught inside of a week if they did. I think you get the idea. All of this burns down to one thing. It's possible to pass a compliance audit with flying colors, 100% coverage of security controls, and still have crap security. This is why there are big companies that are PCI DSS compliant and have been for years and got their bums handed to them by a bored freshman in high school. Story 28. Some tablet medications are the same price despite the dose. If a tablet is able to be broken in half, then you can save money by using the higher dose by taking half a tablet. If the prescribed dose is one whole 5 milligrams per day, then you could just take half a 10 milligram tablet. Not all tablets can be broken in half, not all people would remember to do this, etc. But I worked for a doctor who insisted on this for the nursing home patients. It was the pharmacist who packed all the meds in individual sachets. Save the patients lots of money. Story 29. AI is actually really bad at writing code and text. It's an approximation/chance driven thing. If more people type an error on a particular line, AI will type that same error. It's also very obvious when you've used AI to write code for you. You weren't fooling anyone. I've been a first-year university level programming teacher for 3 years. Programming jobs are much safer than people expect you to believe because it's extremely difficult to replace someone who actually studied and did not cheat during their bachelor's study. The courses teach you new ways to think that are extremely difficult to learn through short courses, corner cutting, and on-the-job experience. The thing that is actually causing risk in the programming career field is all the people who clearly haven't taken the time to learn how to do it properly that are given the power to have say on what should and should not be allocated resources. Story 30. Home and auto insurance is not a scam. You probably have a crappy agent that doesn't care about you, nor are they taking the time to make sure you understand what is and is not covered in your policies, or you choose to remain ignorant to what your policies cover. Your home insurance is not a home warranty. As a homeowner, it is your responsibility to pay out of pocket to maintain and repair your home as needed. Your insurance is for catastrophic events and damages. 2 or more claims in a 5-year period makes you almost uninsurable with most companies out there. And that means you're too risky and too quick to file more claims. Teen drivers will increase the cost of your auto insurance on average an additional $1,500 a year on top of your current auto insurance price. Buying a teen a car less than 8 years old is a financial mistake. They will wreck it. Get them an old sedan. They'll be fine. A hoopty builds character. I still drive an old hoopty. The price of home and auto insurance will increase with everything else increasing in our economy, and cheap insurance is crap insurance. It's like this with most things in life. Get yourself a good insurance broker, avoid the online companies and 800 numbers. Health insurance, however, is a scam. Story 31. We design cars to not last more than 8 to 10 years. Soon, when we move on to electric cars, we will have a huge edge. It will be so much harder to keep older vehicles running and help us force younger generations into new vehicles. I'm so insanely against it, and it's caused me to become an old vehicle hoarder, lol. I hate my job, but it pays well, and so many people are pro-electric cars. It's a change that's definitely coming. Money. Same reason we phased out sedans. They cost more to build and don't sell as well as easy-to-build crossovers with way bigger profit margins. Story 32. Everything has a small amount of radiation in it. It naturally exists in the Earth's crust from when the planet was formed. This isn't due to nuclear power or weapons. In nearly all places on Earth, the amount of radiation present is just so low that it doesn't cause health problems. There are limits on how much radiation is safe in food, water, etc. The radioactive shrimp in the news recently, the safety limit is 17 times higher than what was detected in the shrimp. It was higher than normal, but still safe to eat so as long as you weren't eating at a shrimp buffet. When it comes to radiation, folks operate on an abundance of caution, so the shrimp was still recalled. Story 33. There's a lot of confusion from military folks on which filing status to use on state taxes. I'm helping out a friend with this issue right now. Unless you elect to change your home of record, can be done at your local finance office. Your home state will remain the state in which you should file taxes. If your state does not require you to pay tax on active duty pay, you are not required to file any tax return. If your spouse isn't working at all and your home of record does not require you to pay income tax, your family will not file a state tax return. If you're a spouse who's stationed with your service member in another state and you're working, only you should file in the state in which you worked. You should use the filing status married filing separately, and your return should include your own information and income only. Also, it's true that nobody at military finance offices knows what we're doing. That's because our systems don't function appropriately, and the agency that runs the offices is in Indiana and has no idea how the systems work either. I genuinely don't know how anyone actually gets paid in the military. I don't work there anymore and feel awful for those who do. But seriously, we're probably more frustrated than you are with your pay situation, and yelling at us won't help. Story 34. Given the vast number of calls we get from people asking for information we cannot legally give over the phone due to privacy concerns, I'd say the general public doesn't know the following secrets. If you have a question or issue regarding anything at the prosecutor's office, send an email or a letter. Those we are actually allowed to forward, and they'll get back to you if possible. If your case hasn't been processed yet, it hasn't been processed. You don't need a call every day yelling at us that you filed a report with the police a month ago about an unknown person scratching your car. Our backlog on cases with unknown perpetrators is about a month. You are not a priority. Story 35. I was a data center/information systems consultant for many years. At the time, some of the most stupid people I've ever encountered worked in the most critical areas and made decisions that impacted every aspect of the enterprise. While working on a high-level project for one of the largest banks in the world, a fellow consultant routed his MS/Outlook email from the bank to one of the job sites' MS Outlook, where he was also a consultant. Then he stupidly routed all of his email from his other project to the bank's MS Outlook, creating a loop that quickly went out of control and crashed the corporate emails at both organizations. He ended up losing both gigs. He was so stupid. Story 36. Wildland firefighters triage which houses to try and save and which to let burn. If the homeowner didn't make any attempt to clear the vegetation, firefighters are not going to risk their lives trying to defend it. Sometimes entire blocks of homes are sacrificed in extreme fire conflagrations. Some forest fires are allowed to burn if they are not threatening homes or infrastructure. Back off to a key defensive position like a ridge top or road and let the fire burn to that point. This can double or more the size of the fire. A lot of wildfires need burning, and letting a wildfire do it is perfectly acceptable. That is, doing fuel management prescribed burns using emergency suppression funds. The Freedom of Information Act is a joke. There are many ways to legally withhold information from public FOIA requests. If you receive any documents from a government agency under a FOIA request, it is because they don't care if you see it or not. If they didn't want you to know, you wouldn't get it. Too many ways to hide it, even with court orders. Story 37. Social worker, therapist, worked in doctor's office for senior citizens and in mental health settings. It's appalling how many medical professionals and mental health providers don't tell people what they're diagnosed with. It's largely because they're worried about how people will react and feel uncomfortable dealing with emotions. I'm talking about major diagnoses. Make sure you look at your medical records to see your diagnosis. Get second opinions, ask questions. Primary care doctors, NPs, PAs, etc. know little to nothing about mental diagnoses and often prescribe meds for depression, bipolar disorder, etc. without proper screening for them. Always go to a psychiatrist for the proper screenings if you're exploring medication for mental health. The standard for a possible dementia diagnosis is to screen and then refer to a neurologist, but many primary care doctors don't and are very uncomfortable discussing it with patients. This is dangerous because 1. Knowing early can help you plan for when the dementia progresses before symptoms get more severe. 2. You may not even have dementia. You could have symptoms that look like it. It could be brain cancer, stroke, seizure disorder, etc. So go to specialists. You don't always need a PCP to refer you to one. Lastly, inpatient mental health facilities allow and do illegal/unethical things routinely, like keeping children overnight without parental consent, providing no therapy at all, just medication in groups, if that, physical cruelty by staff, etc. The average inpatient facility is run like a prison, and the quickest way to be discharged is being compliant and quiet. People get committed all the time for stupid reasons, and a very common one is having an insurance plan with robust mental health benefits that they know will keep paying for it. Staff overreact to crying or panic attacks and may extend your time. Many people have sought help with inpatient crisis units and have been discharged with nothing more than a new trauma. Story 38. If you're purchasing a new smartphone, pick it up at a store rather than have it mailed. UPS and FedEx have so much theft, damage to packages, and outright losing of products that there's a very real chance you won't get that phone on time. And if same day delivery is available, it's going through Uber or DoorDash or the like, and there is a good chance your phone will be stolen and you'll have to get that mess untangled. At this point, I wouldn't have anything expensive mailed to me. Story 39. As a medical and mental health LCSW, I urge everyone to have a good relationship with their primary care physician and then check in with them regularly about chronic conditions, even ones the physician may not be managing to build that relationship. When something goes haywire, you need an advocate in your corner who actually knows you. Say thanks to your medical providers if they are awesome. We don't get that a lot. If you want to protect your physical and mental health span, you need to make decisions to support long-term well-being and make sacrifices. Talk to your medical providers about future functional health. They will likely enjoy that conversation because it is preventive. Be honest with your therapist and physicians. Most of us can read body language and tell when you are lying. Don't skip annual visits or regular recommended screenings. It could save your life. Make your wishes known to loved ones and have a power of attorney and advance directive. Story 40. Recycling is pretty much a joke. Most other things just get piled up and eventually taken to a landfill. There is just no money in recycling. So many companies that collect recyclables just store things for many years before being sold to a company who actually recycled it. So the company that actually recycles the items always underpay for items. No one makes money. The company I worked for had a pile of recycled greenery, branches, and such that it is over 100 feet by 400 feet and over 40 feet tall. We sell one semi-truck load a week, but bring in about 6 trucks a week. We accept cardboard. We have a large pile. Any that has any stains or contamination, it gets put in the garbage. I have not seen any of the piles sold for recycling. Plastic, we don't have any buyers of it, so it all goes in the landfill. No matter what type of plastic, none gets recycled. Now, the metal that makes decent money, doesn't matter what type of metal, that stuff is actually what is wanted. Story 41. In construction, more hardware and supplies are brought from Home Depot or Harbor Freight than most companies would like to admit. Just because you're paying $2 million for a large project doesn't mean the general contractor won't cut corners where possible. The only way to prevent that from happening is to have an insanely detailed spec book, require submittals for everything, and have someone diligently checking what is in the field and comparing it. Most companies don't have the manpower, the patience, or time for that. Story 42. Minor. Firstly, you use far more of the stuff that we rip out of the ground than you realize. The food on your table was fertilized with mined phosphate. The paint on your wall has mined titanium and zinc oxides. Your electronics contain a bunch of different metals. Your entire modern lifestyle is dependent on the stuff that we dig up. Modern mining is a lot more high-tech than you think. This isn't the case throughout the entire world. There are mines that are dependent on few drill cores, a basic mine plan, a bunch of truck spit, and a prayer, but many mines now have really advanced technology. Bacteria that extract copper, drills that self-monitor their condition, trucks that drive themselves, software that makes incredibly detailed and complex metallurgical models, supercomputers that can access trillions of production strategies, machines that can scan and sort a rock feed according to its mineral content, AI that can assess the sizes of rocks in a pile and automatically adjust everything from crushing equipment to processing chemical dosage, plants that you can work through via VR, control rooms that are thousands of miles away from the mine, drones that can scan and map tunnels, and analytics platforms that create digital twins that can analyze dozens of truck routes in a second. Mining is crazy expensive, so there's a strong business case for all of this. Tailings dams, basically an artificial lake that holds what is essentially a slurry of very fine sand, are responsible for most of the worst mining-related disasters. The world is full of them, and many are poorly designed and poorly monitored. When they burst, you basically have a big mudslide that can also contain chemical nasties. The more the world consumes, the more it develops, and the more data centers we build, the more of these dams we need. You wouldn't believe the size of the rats and the roaches that live 3,000 meters below ground. Story 43. Nowadays, districts let students with IEPs or behavior plans exhibit violent, disruptive, and vulgar behavior in general education classrooms at the expense of all other students with zero repercussions, and don't care about your non-IEP students' well-being because they aren't protected by laws that could get the district sued. They literally don't care about your kids' safety and will let another student completely ruin their ability to learn and call it least restrictive environment. Story 44. Restaurants, black mold, and ice wells is so prevalent that I do not get ice in any drinks when I go out. Also, with fountain drinks, you have no idea whether the nozzles were cleaned or if they're black from syrup buildup. I'm a server at 2 fine dining restaurants. This is also information collected from other servers. Out of 11 restaurants, only 2 regularly clean the ice wells and the big ice machine. I work in a coastal city, so I'd definitely be wary should you visit one. Mold grows quickly. Story 45. This is probably not shocking, but there are a lot of junior and senior engineers who work on critical infrastructure and essential facilities that are unbelievably incompetent and barely do any work. They either cheated or have passed along through school and got the job because of connections. Quality assurance, quality control, QA, QC is not nearly as thorough as it should be. Most projects rely on a very small number of competent people, hi there, that do 90% of the work. Story 46. I am usually helping 10 or more other families in a single day with their deceased loved ones. They all want the same level of priority. This makes it very difficult for me as a funeral director, embalmer, to file certificates, prepare bodies, run funeral services, make arrangements with families, give pricing information to callers, and do all the other day-to-day things. My main point, the general public doesn't always realize that they aren't the only family that has lost somebody. A little patience goes a long way. Story 47. A lot of paramedics in Australia actually have poor critical thinking and comprehension skills, are extremely selfish, and have hugely inflated egos along with threatening corporate staff on an almost daily basis. Most people aren't aware of this and often praise paramedics for their work, which I agree with. However, the attitude and extremely poor comprehension and poor critical thinking skills of paramedics is shocking, especially with how often paramedics mistreat the corporate staff who are there to help them. Story 48. Solar sales, and I guess I'd have to say it's a full commission job in 99% of cases, and any help from the company typically comes from the salesman commission, so they'll charge more to cover that and still take some home for themselves. Also, be aware of predatory loans or how monitoring works. If you own your system and no one is monitoring for you, you can end up paying that bill plus for the power that system is not providing if it's busted. Story 49. In craft beer, a lot of old beer is blended together and flavored or sour to sell it as a special release in the tap room. If a brewery runs multiple brands or is working on a special label for a store, it is most likely whatever brand they are long on and need to move. So many beers are shadows of their former selves because of scaling of production. Story 50. At my specific grocery store, fine, it's Kroger, maybe others too, I don't know. But if you ask an associate for a sample of any fruit or vegetable, it's in the training manual that you can offer to cut them a piece to sample it. Also, if the store brand product is out of stock, let's say Kroger grape juice for example, it's in the training manual that you can offer them the name brand product at the store brand price. Story 51. Very trivial compared to some other comments here, but I work at a pottery painting cafe. People's hand-painted pieces get smashed all the time. One of us has to painstakingly recreate them and then run them through the kiln again. We don't tell anyone we've done this because it takes 2 weeks between painting and collection, and pottery glaze looks very different after firing. People don't even notice. And if any of these stories got to you too and you learned a thing or two, here's more for you. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. I'll catch you in that video.